Can anyone help me out here? I'm looking for the lost episode of The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog. I'm sure some of you may remember. If you're from the northern part of Virginia and watch the show, you may have seen this. Some backstory first, however. I first recall seeing this episode when I was 8. It was in episode 66 of the season 1. There was only one season, and it was only aired in the northern Virginia, as the broadcasting station had ignored the notice not to play the final episode of the bundle due to this extreme adult content. This was the station's choice, and it had been purchased by a syndication rights for the area, but concerned parents later sued them after several children came down with a light neural hemorrhaging that caused severe nightmares and vomiting. Viewing this episode killed no one, or older viewers seemed to be immune to the side effects, whatever caused this bleeding. But, needless to say, a freeze was put to the production and was hushed up on the news. The show was replaced with a series simply called Sonic the Hedgehog. I started my search for the episode, and after the nightmares of watching the episode returned after 16 years, the nightmares were vivid. They were contained visions of people in a long time, all of them clutching their own faces in despair. The people in this line spread the full length of the street, and all seemingly abandoned their cars just to join the others waiting. Everything had a dark red tone to it, like the sun was burning out on the sunset but never fully went down. Those weren't like the line-littered streets dead. I don't recall very much of the dream beyond the hints of looting. Things like a line of dead riot police, smashed windows, a collapsed skyscraper in the distance, and upturned cars. But no one in the line paid attention to this. They simply sobbed as the line shifted forward. The nightmare ended with one of the members of the line looking directly at me. He said nothing but shifted into unnatural pose, his arms bent at 45-degree angles and his legs spread to a box over ground. His mouth was agape, and as he did this, the rest of the people in line did the same, striking slightly different twisted poses. All of them were looking at me. I awoke with tears in my eyes. My logical step to finding this episode lies in the station that originally aired it. There's nothing odd about the station. It's an old management that has long since moved on, pretty much took their own life, as a new manager pointed out to me. Over a cup of coffee, the new manager and I discussed the station's past, intentionally eased into the subject of the best lost episode, and as it turns out, I was about right. When I brought it up, John, as he will now be known, literally spilled his coffee on his lap. He told me the subject was a personal one to him, and as it turns out, John was the original owner's son. He was kind enough to explain to me that the legal fees were received in conjunction with the mail that he was receiving from children and parents. A light pushed him too far, and he hung himself in the family kitchen. I was a little taken back by the news, so I figured that I was digging too deep and decided to drop this madness, maybe call it a day. But before I could exit John's office, he told me that he would send me the mail. His reasoning? He wanted to know what actually happened. His curiosity was almost deep as mine, which wasn't surprising considering this episode killed his father. I told him I'd take a look deeper into the subject and get back to him on anything I dug up. The letters were the ones you expect. Angry mothers asking what kind of station would air such filth. Legal fees ranging from hundreds of thousands of dollars, enough to send any station broke in the 90s, and of course drawings from children depicting some of the scenes of the episode. They were like the things that's blood, unusually dull colors that persisted throughout, and horrible things, such as Robotnik vomiting blood and Tails crying over the corpse of a the headless bird. One letter, however, caught my attention specifically. It was a letter from the studio that produced the series. Thank you for purchasing the rights to the air The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog. Sega 1993 1994. All rights reserved. Enclosed as the series list, episode descriptions and episodes 166, the entirety of season 1, and legal information regards to the ratings and air times. In poor handwriting at the bottom of the page, it scrawled on a note was a place with words. Episode 66 is not to be aired. This is a database error that contains corrupted material. The initials JS follows. I set out to find this episode, but to no avail. My second plan was to ask the people who sent the angry letters about the episode on their take on it. Those who had not moved away since they gave them the canned, I don't know, or not this again responses. But I did have a chance upon one man around my age that remembers and taped the episode. He invited me in and showed me his VHS copy of the episode. It was badly decayed from over the years of neglect in his garage, though I could only make out a few bits. Tails screaming at Sonic with tears in his eyes. "How could you, Sonic? What have you done?" The rest of the episode was static with the occasional scream and twisted figures, not animals or people, but figures of staring at the viewer with their circular mouths, open black eyes, emitting a loud, slight screech. The tape sent chills up my spine, and I asked if I could take the tape for research. As I was doing so in the episode, he agreed quite readily, as I promised to keep him updated about it. I took the tape to John, and we watched it for about 15 minutes until John jumped back in his seat. He told me he saw the figure with black eyes, but it spoke in a brief moment. He claimed that it saw his lips move. Mouthing a word he caught was entity. We watched this episode for some 1 second flash, or whatever must have been 30 times, and each time we both attempted to freeze frame on the figure. It disappeared when the episode paused. I call it a day when we needed a better copy of the episode, if we were going to find out why the entire series and it caused my nightmares for such of my childhood. Short traveling to France and talking to the animation studio, I gave them a call and they bluntly told me that there was no episode 66. 65 was the last episode of the season. Knowing that this was a dead end, I called again and asked for the contact information of the voice actors. Most of the information was out of date, it seemed. The information given for the voice actors of Robotnik, Scratch, Grounder, and Sonic all gave number not in service errors, or people told me that I had the wrong number. However, I did manage to contact one person. Christopher Evan, which was the voice of Tails. I managed to look for him and fake an interview about his roles in the 90s television. As you'd expect, Chris turned up wearing the usual casual suit and clothing with a smile on his face. He looked like the average guy in his late 20s. He sat down and I asked him some of his roles in bands and television, working my way to Sonic. When I did get there, however, he got really quiet and evasive. So I asked him specifically about episode 66 and he froze. His pupils almost retracted to almost nothing and he looked at me, telling me that the episode only went up to 65. I knew better, of course, and asked him about the script, where he was talking to Sonic about something he had done. The man grabbed his face, not in frustration, but to wipe his eyes that were beginning to well up. He took a deep breath. He told me that the episode was written by Jeffrey Scott and the usual spell that follows. Jeffrey was a nice man and was very patient with Chris as he read the script, being 11 at the time. But this was the first season that drew to a close. Jeffrey had become very angry with everyone, even an 11-year-old Chris. The voice actors for Robotnik and Sonic threatened to quit over his behavior, but the executive producer paid them both large sums of cash, hand right in there, to read from the script that Jeffrey had written. Apparently Jeffrey had other order from the high up, and the top of Sega as far as Chris knew at the time, to produce the episode as it was listed as a business priority. Chris explained to me how, as they read the script, and he felt great sorrow and terror, even if it was that they had lost a close friend or a family member, or even from the people that died before him. He told me that most of his scarring to his vocal cords and from the screaming that was invoked from already reading the script, even extreme exhaustion from the other voice actors involved. The session ended with the security pulling the voice actors from the studio before things went even worse. Even if his mother pulled him up in the show the next day, fearing for his safety, I stopped the interview there and asked for a copy of the episode, but none were sent back to me to the voice actors. That is as far as I come in the search for episode 66. I have heard there may be a copy of the studio in France, but I have no way of getting there on my budget. I know it exists and many more people out there must have a VHS copy, so that's why I asked the internet. Help me in my search, please. And that, my pretties, was The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, episode 66. A Sonic the Hedgehog lost episode creepypasta. My final thoughts on this story? Well, I obviously pretty much can say that this is actually a really interesting creepypasta. Like, what I really do like is that, the whole plot of it is just really, it's just a really good story. I personally thought it was really enjoyable. I mean, I like the concept of it, and it actually flows well. It's not like your typical lost episode, story with cliches all over the place. I mean, well, there is maybe one or two cliches I do know that are in there, but I'm willing to excuse it since this is a story that I have to typically say it was pretty interesting. I mean, I really did thought that the episode was pretty much brilliantly well detailed, especially with, what is actually happening. That actually really helped out with the story. Now, with that being said, the grammar was actually pretty good. I personally really liked it a lot. However, there were a few grammatical errors, words like some mistakes, but other than that, this story was actually pretty good, and I personally have to say it's definitely a really good Sonic story. I mean, the concept of it is just flat out amazing. I personally really enjoyed it a lot. I thought this was a pretty good story for what it is. I mean, it's got a great concept to which I really do like a lot. I thought it was really neat. I mean, this is not like your typical Lost episode, but I personally, for Sonic, this actually really was really good. I personally really enjoyed it a lot. I thought it was really well made and detailed. I personally really thought that this was a really good story. Now, what do I personally think this story is? Well, it's a really good detailed Sonic story, and I have seen a couple narrators narrate it. So I thought, maybe I should read this Sonic one. This is definitely one I've not narrated yet. And it was actually quite good. I personally really enjoyed this story. This is definitely well made in detail, especially with the great concept and stuff. I personally thought it was really well done. Now, with that being said, and that being the case, I don't know who the original author for this story is, so I'm going to leave this as anonymous for now. If anyone knows who the original author is, I'll be sure to give the author proper credit whenever I do find out when I find out who the author is. But other than that, this story was pretty good. I personally really enjoyed this a lot. So with that being said, and that being the case, like I'm always going to say, this is just simply my own personal opinion, and if you disagree with it, that's perfectly fine too. We're all entitled to our own opinions in regards to these creepypastas, and this is just simply my own personal thoughts. My final thoughts on this story, well, not final thoughts, but my final rating of this story is definitely a 10 out of 10. A really great, really well made Sonic story. I personally really liked it a lot. I thought it was really well made in detail. I like the concept of it. It's just a really good story. I mean, there's a lot of good concept with it. I like how detailed this episode went. It's just a really great story. I personally love this Sonic story. This one was definitely a good one. So I'll leave a link in the description so you guys can go check out this story if you haven't, because this story was pretty good. Anyways, what did you guys personally think of this creepypasta? Did you all enjoy it? Did you all not? Also, what you have done personally help make this story a lot better. Feel free to let me know what your thoughts are down in the comment section down below. I'm Shadow the Lion Queen. Thank you so much for watching today's video, and if you enjoyed this channel, leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you're new. Ring the bell for notifications to any uploads. That way you guys will not miss an upload. As always, if you want to go check out my Blue Sky, my Twitter, my DeviantArt, if you want to go follow me on those. Links to those will be in the About page section, so you guys can go follow me on there. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my backup channel known as Miss Dark Shigo, as a link to that will also be in the About page section, so you guys can go follow me on there. And as always, yeah, that's pretty much all I have to really say about this story, but if I'm missing something, or there's something in this that I did not talk about, and you guys want to make a mention of it, let me know. As always, I'll be seeing you guys all in the next video. Peace out, like always. I'll see you all next time, and roll the outro, because I'm out. What's up, my pretties? It's the Lion Queen here. I want to appreciate you all for tuning into this video, and I do appreciate you guys supporting my video by giving this video likes and stuff. If you really enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, comment and subscribe if you're new, ring the bell for notifications to when I upload, so that way you guys will get updated for whenever I upload. If you want to follow me on Twitter or DeviantArt, feel free to leave a follow on those if you are interested in following me on those socials. If you want to support my backup channel, known as Miss Dark Shigo, feel free to subscribe to it, as a link to that will also be in the About page section. And with that being said, and that being the case, thank you so much for watching, my pretties, and as always, please stay pretty.